One of my clients a few years ago was struggling to settle into a ministry role. He would spend a short time at one place, and then he would find himself bored with that job. Oftentimes he would uncover some sort of issue that would make him begin considering a different position at a different place. Really, he was just running from the internal things that were plaguing him. It was the same old story for him over and over again. And as we dug into this discontentment, we realized that he was struggling with integration and the reality that there is no perfect situation and environment. He couldn't achieve perfection, and those around him couldn't achieve perfection. The reality is that we live in a fallen world, a world that's sinful and flawed. We are all flawed. I really think at its core that we all know this, but sometimes it's just hard for us to accept it, especially when it comes to our own life. Integration has been one of the greatest opportunities for growth in my own character. And so in this session, I want to give you some insight on how to embrace the truth that there are both positive and negative realities in your life. Stay tuned. Hey there, I'm Ryan Franklin, and I would love for you to join me every week as we explore leadership topics that'll help you get the clarity needed to move your organization forward. Just hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified as soon as I post a new session. And before we get started, I do want to mention that I have a great new product called the Christian Leader Blueprint. It's a solid model for leadership development. And if you've been looking for something that can help you or your team members develop in leadership, look no further than the Christian Leader Blueprint. And I want to give it away to you as a gift. Just go to christianleadermadesimple.com and you can download it for free today. And without any further delay, let's get to our session. It's amazing how often that when a person experiences the negative aspects of life, like weakness or loss or mistakes or failures, it's amazing how often this can trigger shame and guilt in a person. This is an internal trigger that makes it hard to face the disappointments of life and at the same time still experience successes and happiness. It's all about learning to embrace the good and the bad together. Because when we can't embrace the good and the bad together, it interferes with the way that we accept the imperfection of ourselves and of others. And we seek perfectionism. And many times this leads to us putting performance and achievements ahead of key relationships in our lives. I would have to say that my pursuit of perfectionism has been my number one challenge to overcome in my life and my leadership. I've struggled with it since I was a kid. My drug of choice for most of my life was achievements. I would work hard to achieve things in my ministry for the unhealthy approval of key people in my life. And when I would get that pat on the back, it would be like a shot in my arm. And it would be a high for me that would keep me continually seeking more achievements and perfection. And the idea of me failing or being less than would send me spiraling emotionally and once again moving into an unhealthy pursuit of more achievements. Through lots of counseling and coaching and learning more about integration, I've been able to do some significant work in overcoming these challenges and learning to experience loss and failure and weakness and even mediocrity and still maintain a loved sense of self. It's not possible to be all good, and I'm okay with that. I recognize that I have limits. And I'm okay with limits. Our world and the people of this world have good and bad in it. Because of a sin nature, we all have good parts and we have bad parts. It's just not possible for any of us to be all good. We'll have a combination of good and bad. And the world around us will have a combination of the good and the bad. And in the case of my client that I told you about in the opening of this session, he would require perfectionism of whatever environment that he was working in. And when the church or the job failed his expectations, he would devalue the group and he would get frustrated with the group. And this would lead to him withdrawing emotionally and then eventually withdrawing physically as he moved on to find another job, a new church or group that could try to meet his unreasonable expectations. Here's one of the major problems with it all. When we struggle with accepting the good and the bad together within ourselves or within the world that we live in, the end result is inconsistent emotions within us and inconsistent relationships with people around us. It creates a roller coaster effect on our relationships. Relationships are strained and possibly even pushed away. And so what's the solution? What does it take to overcome these various integration issues and come into some sense of health? It's much easier said than done, but the solution is to embrace reality. Paul understood reality all too well. He says in Romans 7:14, "For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin." Paul knew that he was weak and fallen. That's reality. But he also knew that when he was weak, that's when he was also strong. 2 Corinthians 12:10, "Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities and reproaches and necessities and persecutions and distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." We must embrace the fact that we're fallen and we're weak. And we must realize that it's through our relationship with Christ that we become strong. We were created in the image of God. And because of that, we have significant value and strength. And so we're both weak and we're strong. It's when we embrace this reality that we can accept that there's good and bad in life. But life is mostly good. It's when we embrace this reality that we have significant integration and growth in our character.